You're listening to New HD New York, where rock lives. I am Patrick Bamburak, and this is Patrick Bamburak's Night Music. I'm very excited to have with me today a recording artist I greatly admire. And I'm very happy to say that I've had many opportunities and will continue to have opportunities to work with. I'm talking about Reina Williams. So, welcome to Patrick Bamburak's Night Music on New HD New York, where rock lives.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Patrick. It's an honor, pleasure, long overdue, man. That's what's up.
And we have the advantage, right, of having all the opportunities we've had to work together. And for me, as a recording artist, to get to know your music and to get to know your skill as a songwriter, as an engineer, as a musician, as a singer. You're the total package. And that's one of the things I think that will come out in the discussion today, just how well-rounded in the complete picture of an artist that you are. Let's start with that. Where is Reina Williams from?
Okay.
And how did you discover your talent and passion for music? So let's start right at the beginning.
So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised. And my passion for music honestly probably started before I was born. Like my mom um trained and sang opera for most of my young life until young adulthood. Like only recently since COVID, she's actually just not been, she wasn't doing any singing jobs, because she was still working in churches, but she sang Washington Opera, Baltimore Opera. She's done, you know, she's got to perform. I guess there was a time when Pavarotti was like the guy at the Washington at the Met. So she's done some things, and I guess that's where it kind of started, just being in the house. Like, and my mom and dad, when they met, they were actually in a band together. Like, this is way before I existed, but so
Okay.
music's always been like in my life. You know what I mean? Kind of like
Mhm.
um, part of who I am. So, I mean, it could have been something that I was like, "Ah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this," but it just, it's just always felt right. And I think in music, like the way my mind works, if windshield wipers are going, I start making a beat. Like, it's like
Okay.
that type of thing. So, um, yeah, that's basically like how it started. Baltimore is like it's an interesting town, but there's a lot of art there, and there's a lot of music there. Um, they have Billie Holiday. Like, I got a street named after Billie Holiday. She was very present in the scene, and it's one of those places where you got the School for the Arts. Baltimore School for the Arts is there, and Peabody Institute, which is like all art based places. Like, even Tupac went to Baltimore School for the Arts. So it's one of those things where it's like I feel like it was kind of a natural thing. And growing up in Baltimore, there was never like a lack of like inspiration to write. It usually was like some weird stuff. But at the same time, it's like I never like deny that I'm from there, even though there's a lot of things about Baltimore that I'm not like proud of as a place. But as a city for art, like it's a very artsy town.
So, for all of your fans who know your music and know the genres that, and you've worked in many genres of music, but to hear, the first style of music that is at the beginning of your story is opera. And
Mhm.
that you are, as you said, a person who thinks in music. So that sense of the sort of the purity of music, I guess, that's sort of inside your mind, inside your soul. Um, do you feel like you're an artist who sort of transcends genres? To you, does it all boil down to being just music?
Yeah, for sure. I always say like the opera, I guess, background, like opera slash like, you know, when I say church music, a lot of people think of like gospel. I think, I don't know, maybe that's just me making assumptions, but like it was more of like the traditional hymnals, and so there was like
Hmm.
when I would the thing that would really catch my ear as a kid is like the harmony breakdowns. Like, I would go to rehearsal with my mom, and then so I'd be in the, and it was usually at like a church building like Baltimore Opera. Before they had built a facility where they actually had rehearsals, they would have this one specific it was one or two of these churches that they would have their rehearsals at, and they would have like a Sunday school room, and that's where I used to hang out and like coloring books and like markers and stuff. But I could hear because I was like right down the hall, and this was back when my homework was minimal, so my homework was done in 20 minutes, and then I'm sitting there and they're having the rehearsal, and then I'm hearing like the choir director like say, okay, sopranos, and then he sings that note, and it's like, okay, baritone, sing this, and they were like it was like picking the harmonies apart, and then you hear it together, and my little mind was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And the same thing like in church, like I would always, my mom showed me what the descant was like, in the hymn books there's like the melody, and they have like the notes and the words, and then there's this other line like at the bottom, and that was like basically like a harmony that you would sing along with the melody. And so like I was very minimally skilled at reading music, but enough so where I could figure out what the descant was. And then the places where like I was like, oh, I don't really know what the tone of that note is, my brain would fill it in. So like
Yeah.
I feel like I like, as far as the question about like being a musician all around like genre and stuff, like I I have a hard time just kinda, like, sticking to doing one thing, because I just love music, and there's so much music that out there that's dope, and, like, so many different genres that are so cool, and I think that for me, it's just whatever feels good and, like, feels right, and, like, again, like, in my mind, like, how it comes out and, like, this beat, you know, and when I was in high school, I was in like the percussion ensemble. I was the only young lady in a percussion ensemble with a bunch of these boys, and they banging on drums and stuff. But I would hear them when I first went to high school in ninth grade. I'm like, yo, that's kind of dope. And like I remember when I was in middle school that the high school kids had come to our school and like playing their drums and doing these cool things, and I wanted to do that. And so that's another like piece of it. Um I know we're gonna talk about the band a little later, but I don't know if you noticed, like in when we're in practice, I talk to Derek in drum. Like I
Yes.
tell him what I want to hear, because like I am very much as like a songwriter and music. I also like, if I had a drum kit, I think I told my wife, I was like, when we're buying a house, I'm getting a kit, and I'm gonna be playing
Hmm.
that. 'Cause it's just, like, making beats and, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a very, like, percussive, like, very, like, beat oriented, like, that groove, like, that undertone, and then you lay, like, your melodies and your chords on top, or your chords and your melodies, and then you lyrics. That's how I usually build a song. I mean, there's no rules to this, but, like,
Right.
I don't like to stick to one genre, but I know that it's for strategic purposes. You have to kind of like whittle it down. So people are like, well, what kind of music do you make? And I used to be like, I whatever I want, and it's kind of
Right.
do, but it has definitely like kind of gone into this like reggae hip hop mode. It's always been, I feel like it's always kind of been like this like hip hop thing. Like I had a guitar, I got a guitar, the guitar I still play, this guitar right there. It mirrors things weird. Is I
Right.
got that when I was 13, or 13th birthday. I've had that since I was 13. And it's got like
Right.
all the memories and all the things, and like, I used to buy Guitar World magazines, but only if they had songs in it that I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And I was like, that, and then just kind of going from there. So I did start out like alternative, like I used to listen to a lot of Metallica, like Alice in Chains. Like that's kind of when, the creative started bubbling, and I had an outlet to like do it, and then I think my mom's at the time, this guy that she was seeing for a long time, his son had moved in with us, and he was more into like hip hop and R&B. So that's kind of when I really got introduced to it. So that was like the early 90s, like 93, the 96, but it was more like that mainstream thing. So, it's weird, like the influences that I have as far as like hearing like people rhyme and rap and stuff like that. So yeah, like part of my story is really like weird and kind of messed up in a way, but at the same time, it's cool because I'm here and I just do what I do, and you know, my wife's like, you need to give yourself more credit. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting foundation too that you have when you're talking about your mother as an opera singer doing essentially what is sacred music as the foundation for Western classical music. I mean, that's
Mhm.
really where the roots of classical go back to. And when you're sitting down the hall from with the rehearsal and you're hearing all of this music coming from, I'm sure the incredible acoustics of the big room in the church in Baltimore, and hearing it being broken down and getting the pieces of music and understanding how they exist separately and then how they're woven together. Did that start to like program your mind too when you were approaching the art of recording your music?
100%. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like this, sometimes I have to not do harmonies. Like, it's like it's funny because when I first started, like when I had the access to like get to record, you know, rest in peace with grandma Margie Williams. She, you know, helped me get like my first piece of gear. I actually still have it. It's over here. It's busted. It's an 828 or Motu 828. I don't even know why I still have it. I think it's just one of those things. Like it looks cool sitting in the rack. It doesn't freaking work.
Right.
But like,
Right.
that was the first thing that I ever had to like record on. And I, went out and got a mic, and like I had to, I did a whole thing in the inbox and the computer and like do all of that. And I don't even remember what the first program was. I think somebody gave me a copy of like Digital Performer or something like that. As I went to school, I ended up going to school for like recording, like after high school. Like I just caught the bug. At that point, I was like, I had been in a band, like I had been in the studio, did demos, like that. So I was like, I'm gonna do it at home because sometimes I could be kind of cheap. So I was like, I want to learn how to do it myself. Blah, 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 blah. So but
Right.
that when I started recording myself and being like, oh, I have kind of an infinite number of tracks, that's what we doing. That's what we doing. And so it's just like, I would lay like the one line, because sometimes I'll spend like 30 minutes to just working out like parts. Like I'll sit in here and there'll be like the main line, even on my raps, you know what I mean, where there's like just going in and out with like some harmony, like what do they ad libs, like just the emphasis. But I remember when I first started making demos and stuff, and like this, people always say stuff to you when you're coming up, and it's like constructive criticism. But I've learned in my maturity to not take things personally. But I used to be like, yo, what, this guy's like, oh, you put all those harmonies on there, it kind of brings out the cheese. And I'm like, the cheese, are you kidding? And like, I think back to it, I'm like, it probably was maybe cheesy, but you also I was talking to a guy that raps and he didn't sing. So, it's also like not, but a lot of times there's been many times being a woman in this industry where men have asked me, oh, did you do this yourself? Like, you don't
Right.
ask these
Right.
other boys that, oh, did you do this all by yourself? Like, yes, sir, I did. So,
Right.
and so it's one of those things where, there's this, and I think that has also played a little bit in this kind of like self-doubt or like this downplaying thing that I fight with every day, where it's like
Hmm.
being made to feel like it's not good enough, because that was like a experience that I had a lot. Like, and again, learning what is a constructive criticism and what to take, and then what to just leave, not assuming either way, but saying, okay, well, this person might be a little bit biased, or like this person, like there was, I've had so many experiences, like back in the MySpace days, like I reached out to this producer who I stumbled upon, and he was accessible, and I was like, oh wow, this guy, he's like a producer. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I really like your music, and like, come check out my beats. And then, he just kind of like bashed me, and it doesn't, but that energy really doesn't serve anybody. Like, even if I was starting out, which I was, like the last thing that you should do to somebody is like put them down, instead of like say, hey, that's good, like, or you're on the right track, or like keep going. Like, even if it's not the greatest thing, which it probably wasn't at the time. I heard some old stuff I did, all like, that's terrible. Or like
Right.
it's good, but there's like, that's what growth is. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody really like pops out unless you're Jacob Collier. You don't pop out like being excellent right away. But I'm sure he was like terrible for like 6 months, the first 6 months of his life, until he was able to speak. And then he was just amazing.
Well, there's a Lou Reed album, and the title of the record is "Growing Up in Public," and that's what we as recording artists do. And you got to get your mind around the fact that you're going to release and put stuff out there forever that is still like sort of the earliest phases of your growth, and unless you do it and release things, you'll never put anything out. So you got to start
Mhm.
somewhere, and then that body of work will grow and evolve and change over time. And for you, one of the things that has always impressed me from the moment we met is how committed, how all in to your growth as an artist you are. That no matter what you've accomplished, you're always just as hungry to do the next thing as you were when you began. My sense is that we as musicians we will encounter each other and stuff, and then all of a sudden you measure up like, okay, how really committed to the art and craft is that other person? Do you want to work with them? And in your case, it's like you're 1,010% committed to your growth with these amazing accomplishments. What are some of the milestones that you would point to in your career as things that you can't believe you did, um, and they're in your resume forever?
Oh man. I mean, if we're gonna go backwards from the present moment, I can't believe that I had a song that like this song that I have, Unlock It, for me not promoting it, it gets like 5,000 something streams a month. And that's slowed down a bit. Um, and that's with help from a label, like a small label, High Vibe Records, and they do like singles, so I'm not signed to them. I'm not their artist, but I have music that they've released, and it's on one of the playlists that they're associated with, and then getting added to other people's playlists. So that's super dope. Like seeing that I don't know, I think clocking probably 200,000 something plus streams now. And that's literally I've made a couple of videos with it a few times. And then just like having a bunch of stuff placed in TV shows, like
Yeah.
a girl that being able to work with amazing musicians. Like when I was maybe about 10 years ago, there was this music festival in Michigan. It's Michigan Women's Music Festival, and like I think the first or second year of that, which I think the last one, they 30 years, like they or 35 years that Mishfest was around, but like the first or second year they had Tracy Chapman right before she blew
Oh,
up,
wow.
and like so there was like these, that stage and like those artists, and like one of the more seasoned and well versed artists on there, that came from that community, um Toshi Regan. She's like this, her mother was this huge like activist, Bernice Johnson Regan, who she actually just passed away, but like, she definitely like, I mean, Toshi's like performed for Obama and like all these, presidents and Kennedy Center and stuff like that. But I got to share the stage with Gantland Dorsey, who was David Bowie's
Oh,
bass
God.
player. And you know what I
Yes.
mean, doing that festival, and just really dope women. Allie Miller, who like plays drums for what's her name? 10,000 Maniacs of what's
Oh,
this
Natalie Merchant.
yeah, like she, what I'm saying? Like we're in a
Yeah.
store and like work, and I'm hearing, these songs, and I'm like, that's Allie Miller playing drums. And like, and I've performed with Allie
Yes.
Miller, and Allie Miller like loves my music. Like it's still, that type of thing, like being able to share the stage with like these, and Vicky Randall, like Vicky Randall was on the Tonight Show band forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
With Jay Leno, and she's real cool and like, just really dope. Like, and I think that was the one thing about, you know, being at Mishfest, like being around like these really sick women musicians. There was another woman at Alex. She performed. There was when I think Mary Vieira had like a daytime show, and I'm like, is that
Okay.
Alex? Like shredding, like just again, just like these really like dope women, and just like hearing my stuff, like I'm sitting in the living room, and then like a show is playing on Netflix, and I'm like, that's me, like in the background in the
Hmm.
song, like, oh, I remember that. Like that song sounds familiar. Like people hitting me up, and then of course, like I was maybe I don't know in 2000. 11 or whenever they did. I was on the X Factor, like the one season that they had in America. I don't know, maybe they had 2 seasons, I don't know, but it was like the first season. That was a crazy experience. Like, I was just talking to somebody last week about, like, how weird and crazy and cool and traumatizing and, a setup and, like, all of the all of those things,
Yeah.
like those TV talent shows, they are not what they seem to be, but at the same time, it's like, who doesn't want that type of, like, exposure, quote unquote? Like, at the
Right.
end of the day, like, it helped to inspire, like, a different part of me, like, a growth in me because, thinking back on, like, how kind of, like, pompous I came off or, like, kinda arrogant because I felt like I had to be because I was, like,
Hmm.
on TV and there was a contest and, like, all about your personality, and so it's like you were saying before, like the growth and stuff, and like me still wanting
Hmm.
to do this, like there's many times where I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, why am I trying? Like, there's so many, and then, but then I'm like, cuz I can't stop, and so instead of me worrying about what other people are doing or comparing myself to other artists or whatever, like I have to turn that into like, all right, well, this is really inspiring. Like this person is doing this person can do this. Like one person I feel that way about is Brittany Howard. Man, like she, when I see her and like I hear her and like her voice is so different, right? And she's not like your typical look, but like she, Alabama Shakes, like my wife took me to go see them some years ago for my birthday in Philly, and like they were so good. And I only knew like a couple of their songs, but I really liked them and I really liked her. And like just to see how like she's just so unabashedly like authentic and like she goes out there and she does her thing, like that inspires me. Every time she pops off my feed, I'm like, I gotta just keep rocking because Brittany Howard out here doing this, like, and she's doesn't care what people think about her. And she doesn't, that's not the focus. And like you could tell when people really do this because they love it versus they do it because they want to be rich and famous. It's a
Right.
different vibe. And I would like to be rich. I don't care about being famous, but I feel rich already in my life. Look, I'm in my own studio. I'm like good hair. I got a wife. I got naked cats. Like, I get royalty checks. Like I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'm doing more than like most of the people that's in our industry that are trying to do things. Feel very fortunate to like still have relationships with people in publishing companies and like people. This guy just hit me up today, like, oh, when you want to do the session, and that's different for me. Like I usually have people send me a track, but he wants to like do a session, like probably over Zoom, and I'm like, all right, well, we'll figure it out. So that's cool.
The work itself is the reward, but it's also just like you're so working so hard you're not even seeing kind of the bigger picture of what you've accomplished. And one of the things that struck me when we first met was that as I discovered your music and we were talking about the things we were into, what we've done, who we worked with, like our worlds were connected. That 6 degrees of separation,
Right.
um, whether it was other musicians in New Jersey or people in the top levels of the music industry. To me, immediately that was the sign that you are really deep into this world and accomplishing things that there's people who on their best day are dreaming that they can have a tenth of what you've already accomplished. How do you continue to inspire yourself? How do you work to sort of push aside that doubt so that you can keep doing the brilliant things you're doing?
Oh, well, it's just like this morning before we had a session, like I meditated, and I remember that when I was doing regular meditation every day, that definitely helped me like stay more focused and get out of my head. Um,
Hmm.
it's I do this meditation that I found from the dude Sadhguru, and it's called Isha Kriya, and like he just says, I am not the body, I am not even the mind, and and it lasts for me about 8 or 10 minutes, and then there's like its other part, but like sometimes when I don't have the headphones to pull up the YouTube video to listen, because it's kind of a guided meditation in a way, but I'd still do it on my own, and it really helps. And there's definitely been some moments where I've reached the level like when you meditate, your brain waves change, And
Mhm.
I definitely like have gotten to the point where there's been quite a few times where I sit down and meditate, and I definitely am like feel like my consciousness is here, like almost outside of my body. And then I just kind of the thought I don't focus on a thought. Like some people are like, oh, what am I like thoughts? Like this. It's not about emptying your mind, but it's not about attaching yourself to any of the thoughts that you have. And so like if you practice doing that enough, and then you're in your waking life, or no, you are awake, but like when you just walking around,
Mhm.
I found that like it was easier for me to detach from weird intrusive thoughts or like doubts about myself. And so, and I was talking to you about this the other day. Like I used to smoke cannabis for like a long time. And like I didn't know that like there was a whole nother part of me, a whole nother way, a whole nother version of Raina Williams that's like a more productive, focused version. And people are like, well, how would you not know that? Because smoked since I was a teenager and like for most of my life. So then like there was this different side of me that came out when I started not engaging in smoking cannabis. And now like I'm just like, what am I like? Because then I would stop, and then I would go back, and then I would notice that there was like this change in like my
Right.
focus and my drive and my self-doubt. And because then when I get out of it, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, why are you, so it's sort of like for me, this is a disclaimer for all of you, don't smoke pot, guys. Like, but for me personally, like it doesn't it served its purpose for, I guess, when it did. And now in my life, I'm like, no, that's it, because it just blocks me. Like it does things, and it changes the way that I feel about myself. And it's not a real, those aren't feelings aren't valid. So, that's kind of how I, the really like Wuta way, like esoteric, like that's the way for me personally, that's how I keep moving. Because when I step back and listen to things that I've done, and listen to things and see how people respond still when I go out and do shows, like that also keeps me going. Like, of
Right.
course I'm gonna get in the room and be like, oh, I don't like I can't play guitar like you. Like you're an amazing guitar player. Like I can't play guitar like Mike, but that doesn't matter, right? Like, I
Mhm.
do music the way that I do it, and I show up the way that I show up, and the way that I hear things is unique. Like there's nobody in this world that's like you. There's nobody in this world that's like me. That's the beauty of individuality. And so it's like that's really like how I kind of stay motivated and understanding there's like nobody out there like me, dog, like nobody. And so like it's almost this kind of there's a little bit of ego there, like, yo, I gotta share this with the world, like because I'm a
Right.
unique person. And I feel happy to share the things, the gifts that I've been blessed with, that comes from the universe. Like it comes from creator. Like I'm not a religious person by any means, but I feel like I understand, you know I understand the matrix. And like there's
Right.
this, there's this force that like this unseen thing that's like holding everything together. And when you step back, that's another thing with meditation, you get quiet. And like, I've said with ayahuasca before, and like everybody says it definitely has that effect where like, oh no, this isn't all there is. Like, and it's not about heaven or hell or anything like that. It's just more like this is a dimension that we exist in, and there's other dimensions. They even have CIA documents to just prove that like they've been holding on to this thing for years. Like they already knew about it. And how did they get
Right.
there? Meditation, like you can access the fabric of the universe. So that's really why it's like, all of the doubts and stuff, that's all like noise. And so I just have to try to like push the noise away. And just stay
That
focused on like the good stuff we doing.
that mindset is a driver, in my opinion, too, behind why your lyrics are so inspiring and motivating and meaningful. Um, when I was listening to your songs, and I was, all the ones that were just new to my ears and stuff, and I
Mhm.
was like really blown away by the insight, by the positivity, by the meaning, by the weight of the message that you're delivering. As a songwriter myself too, I always would strive to say something, whether I was writing a deep song for me or I was writing maybe something a little lighter for another artist, but stick a message in there somewhere. Yours are they're beautifully crafted, accessible, but yet so meaningful. And so, as a lyricist, how does your meditation mindset help you with your craft of writing lyrics?
I have to make myself not write something that means something. Like, my
Right.
default is I'm creating. Like, if you were creator, like, I literally say, like, those meaningless bugs that exist, they still have a purpose. Like, mosquitoes, as much as I can't stand mosquitoes, like, they have a purpose on in the ecosystem. They're food for other bugs that do other things, that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Oh
when
yeah.
I even when I write something, like right now I'm working on this thing with this producer from the UK, and it's like this track that's like very um superhero, like video game, like, movie trailer, dramatic, like hip hop. It's so sick. Like, it's a sick track. Like, I heard it and I was like, just because that's the reaction I get when I hear something that's so nice. And like, but I'm writing like these lyrics, like something about like in like a lion out like a legend, something, I'm gonna come back with the vengeance, like, so. And that's how, is that me? No, but it's like I have to become this character, like when I write
Right.
these songs, but still making it like, I remember one time I was working with a different UK producer, and I was just there writing. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be the greatest verse ever, and it's gonna be so clever. And he was like, yo, you're so dope. He was like, but this is for like TV placement. Like, we gotta, he's like, you're doing too much. And I was just like, but
Right.
and just having to learn how to do that. So like, when I'm writing for me, it's definitely stream of consciousness. It's definitely like, how do these chords feel, or like, what is this? Like, a lot of times, ever since I had stopped smoking, like, I've been getting like dreams of like songs. And one time I had a
Mhm.
dream that we were all like at rehearsal, and Derek was like, hey, Tati, you remember that song that you did? And he pulled up some YouTube, and it was like some video of like one of my songs that was like in like a Fast and Furious movie, which has never happened, right? But in this dimension that I was tapping into, this reality where Derek's like, remember this song? And then I'm
Mhm.
just like, and in the dream, like, it was familiar, and I never forgot it. And I got up in the middle of the night, walked in here. I was like, I can't record. So I just got my phone and I turned the video feature on because it gets audio. And so there's this black screen, but I was picking the guitar up and I was playing it in the dark. And so,
Oh
like,
wow.
that's a song that eventually we're gonna play. But it's just a hook and like the beat and the chorus. And I figured right at that moment, because I couldn't forget it. And it was very simple, but like that simple hook that I came up with is a bed for something, again, that's coming from my heart, that I feel like that it needs to be shared with people. Because there's a lot of, because there's a lot of like protest music, and like, it's like, if you conscious, right? And then there's different phases of it, like, oh, fight the power, or oh, it is like, I think that the part of what I bring to whoever is willing to listen is like, someone used to say that it was, listening to my music was like reading a diary, um but
Mm.
like this diary of like self growth and like self awareness and like personal responsibility, and like, and I just want people to know that they're not alone in like feeling these certain ways about themselves and about life, and like, it's okay to like be flawed, but recognize those things and then learn and grow from them. Because there's a lot of this like lack of accountability juice that people on right now, when they don't really want
Right.
to like look at it, but it really just comes from shame. You know what I mean? And like, it comes from being ashamed of like maybe not being what you think you should be, or acting a way that is acceptable. So then there's people wear these masks and they pretend and they do all these things, and that's, I guess it's okay, but there's a time for like growing out of that, and everybody's a work in progress. I am not a perfect person, but I'm definitely not the same human being that I was 20 years ago. And I could
Right.
and I could just tell by the way that I listen to songs that I wrote 20 years ago versus now. It always had meaning. It was just different, and I always try to make it I'm kind of like an overachiever. So I always try to make like my songs be excellent, and part of that comes from like working in publishing business and like having this guy be like, I need the most this, and that's like the pressure, So I
Right.
try not to, I have to give the time to like, you know, I work with people who don't exactly always make me feel pressure anymore. They just come, they're like, yo, well, we work with you because we love what you do. So like just knowing that and being like, all right, so that's already, it's not even like, oh, you set the bar high, like I'm the bar. Like they're coming to me because I'm the bar that they want at that moment.
Right.
So that's kind of how how it comes out, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
just
absolutely.
tapping in. Sometimes I even write, if it's like a subject matter thing, it's really like helpful. And I'll just be like, all right, well, I got to write this song about like, it's got this heist feel. It's usually like for publishers. I'm like, oh, it feels like a heist. It feels like somebody's robbing somebody or whatever. So I start writing out all of the words like associated with that. And then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna throw that. And the rhyme, what is it? The rhymedictionary.com. Oh, if I could put money and invest in that website, I would, because that's the website is my best friend. Oh,
Yeah.
that's website is great. It cuts time in half because your girl can't always think of all the clever words.
Well, you're good at finding them if you can't think of them because
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
brilliant. People oftentimes they ask me, they're like, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, well, it's also a job. It's a craft. You need to have the right tool for the right job at the right time, and the right mindset to solve the problem that's ahead of you. Whether you're writing
yeah.
a song for another artist, for television, or for yourself, that if you can't if your ego gets in the way of doing what you need to do for the work that's at hand, you're going to be just hitting your head against a brick wall all the time.
Yeah, for sure. The ego is like a little baby child. Go sit down. Like, so, oh, yeah, you could come out. Okay, something let it go. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. We gonna celebrate that. Okay, now have a seat because you gonna
Right.
get me in trouble. You know what I'm saying?
So we've established so far that the your foundations in music, through your experience with your mother, that world you inhabited, how this has been part of your life since as long as you can remember, and it's brought you to television, to arenas, to stages large and small, making records, to writing for other artists, to developing your own career. All of this journey is led now to this moment where you and I are talking.
Yeah.
And what is happening now in the world of Reina Williams?
Well, I was just thinking about how it was cool. Like this year, I got to go to Maui, with this dance company that is headed up by my cousin,
Mhm.
Ryan Johnson, who is like, he just got awarded a Guggenheim like fellowship award, which is huge. Like that's like a
Wow.
huge thing. Like, there's a lot of other really like prolific, amazing black and brown people that have received that award. So he's like, amongst your upper echelon of like,
Right.
as far as in the dance world, so like that in and of itself is cool. Like, just being able to have like these things that I do that's not exactly like my stuff, but I'm bringing my flavor. Like I've produced 3 or 4 tracks for Soul Defined. That's the name of the dance company, Soul Defined. We got to perform in Maui. We've performed in Washington D.C. We did in New York City. Like I traveled in the past couple of years. Like I've traveled around with them a lot, which is beautiful because I get to do my thing in a different way. You know what I'm saying? I get to like do some finger drumming. He kind of pushes me. He's been very integral in the past couple of years for like kind of pushing me to that, to being like more confident about like the producing side, and like and it's cool to like sometimes like be a support instead of like be like the main event. But as far as
Right.
like Raina Williams main event, like we got this band going, Reina Williams and The Remedy, which is so dope. Like, and I'm so happy to be able to work with you and Wayne Lyle, who's like this bass
Oh
player
gosh.
from like another planet, and
Yes.
helping to like really like this, Derek, who's just such this young like amazing drummer, and like seeing him grow. Like I worked with him a couple years ago when I first started trying to get a band together, and like seeing the growth from 2 years to now,
Yeah.
and then just like, how hungry he is just to learn stuff and like to get better and like play different styles. And then Mike, who's like just a really cool, chill, like he's just a guitar head, and like I learned so much
Yeah.
about like different music from him, because I don't listen to bluegrass or Fish or Grateful Dead, nothing like that, but just that type of different way. And like, you know and somebody like Pedro, who like I realize it's just like he's just hungry to play music. And like,
Yes.
even if and even in like but he's somebody that like I could give you a chart, my guy, and you could just play that. Like I don't
Right.
even have you know what I mean? And so it's like some of the things where we're doing this collabing and like kind of bringing together, and like songs that I've had for years, and now we're like kind of like breathing new life into them. Like it feels like all of the things that I've been doing over the past 20 how long has it been? Oh Jesus, I'm telling my age. The 20 something years of my life, with from starting out being in a band in a you know somebody's basement, playing Tool, and then now we're like right here playing, original songs, and progressing at this cool pace, and like just having everybody really just be on board. Like, and that's why I'm not really, even though I'm like, could we use like a keyboard player? Yeah. Could we use like a extra horn or whatever? Yeah. But like right now I'm really just feeling like our vibe, and I would rather
Mhm.
us like nurture that, and then the people that are meant to join us, because it's again, I'm very big on like people's energy, and like what your vibe like. And that's why the write the way that I write, and like it's like a little family, and so I just want us to be able to nurture that with each other, and continue to we almost there with having like a full set, so by the time we have our gig, we have a gig coming up October 1st, and then we're also playing in at the Adams Fest. So by the time we get there, we're gonna have the sets, and then we're gonna tell you to grow to build and grow from it. Like I have so many visions for like what we're gonna do, and where in the places that I want to be on the stages. And I feel like I don't know how, but it's gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really worry about the how, right? Like I've learned that in life too. Like a lot of times the things that we want don't happen when we want them to, or but how they happen is a lot more amazing. Like you can make things happen, of course, like you put the work in, you do that, and again, like that is the band. And then I'm just been doing a lot more collaborating with different producers for you know more like publishing things. I'm doing this track right now. I actually have to send it to him today. These two really amazing vocalists. This one woman, Audrey Callahan, she calls her high vibe pop, high vibe entertainment, INNER. Like I love that play on words, but
Oh,
she's like
wow.
positive, and she had this and the other one, this woman named Sophia. I can't remember her last name. Forgive me, Sophia. But like she kind of stumbled on a Sophia. But I worked with Audrey last year. We did this little like a redo of this some pretty girls walk like this, but we did like pretty girls think like this, and then it was very more inspiring. And she's Audrey's gotten like quite a beautiful like following, and she's got a Patreon page. Her name's Audrey Callahan, and she actually did a song with this guy, Michael Wilbur, who was in this band called Moon Hooch. And they're like this. Moon Hooch was like horns and like beats, like almost like if you were like a EDM DJ, but the people was playing horns too.
Oh,
And
wow.
like, yeah, and then Michael started building like these cones, like for the end of his sax, like almost like the street cones, like using the construction cones to like amplify with the sound. And then he kind of started doing his own thing, and then he made this track, and she wrote to it. And then I'm like watching the US Open, like flipping through, and I'm like, is that Audrey? And like, so she and Michael got a
Wow.
placement on a US Open. They used it. That was their theme, the theme for the US Open this
Oh,
past.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Audrey's cool. She's got a great voice, and so I'm doing a track with her and Sophia. Just kind of building something, and I might jump on there with a rap or whatever. But I'm literally just trying to have them give them something that they could sing their beautiful, inspiring lyrics over because we need more of that. You know what I'm saying? We need more of like the music that's uplifting and making people feel good and like the vibration is good or like just making you feel something instead of just like that's nice, oh I like the beat, that's nice too, it's a place for everything. But I think that right now at the essence of the world is definitely in need of like the art that taps into like your humanity because all this other stuff is just too crazy out here.
Where can we find then your music online and follow what's going on in the world of Raina Williams? What's your website and your socials?
Oh yeah, my website is ReinaWilliams.com. It's pretty simple. Reina Williams.com. And my socials are Reina Williams Music. I try to keep it pretty easy to find. Yeah, definitely can hit me up on any of those places. I'm pretty active on Instagram. That's like my kind of Instagram and then Facebook. And I try to do TikTok sometimes, but TikTok is a strange environment. I'm still trying to figure out how to crack the TikTok code, but I think a lot of people that like my music, they actually more on like Instagram and Facebook. So, but either
Right.
way, you could, if you want to send me a message on TikTok, I will find it or follow me there. Like there's, I try to equally spread out the content through those things and you join my email list. Like as soon as you get to my website, there should be something popping up for the email list. And yeah, that's how you could follow me. And I'm based out of Jersey. We're playing in let's say we playing in so actually tomorrow night I'm gonna be sitting in with Wayne for a couple of songs in Morristown. Him and his band Groove Gangsters playing in Morristown at like the laundry or something like laundromat or something in the
Yeah, I
evening and
think the
then
laundromat.
laundromat, yeah, and then on Saturday, Mike and I are playing at Music Fest in Bethlehem, PA, which is pretty dope. We're doing 2 sets, over there by the steel mill stacks, and that's gonna be 7 p.m. And I mean, I don't know when people gonna listen to it, but that's when we're gonna be listen to this. But that's what we're doing. On the 10th, August 10th, and then October 1st. With Raina Williams and the Remedies playing in the city at Ethel's, which is on Upper East Side, and then we just gonna keep going from there. Because I'm really like excited about everything we're doing. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to thank you for your time today, and thank you for including me in the Remedy. I'm having an amazing time working with you, an inspiring time too, which is really I couldn't wait for us to be able to get together and have this discussion on my new HD show because I am as much a fan as anything when it comes to your music. So thank you so
Oh,
much for
thanks,
being here
man.
today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It was cool.